I wanted you to learn a little bit about fracking. Why? Because fracking has made United States one of the top leading producers in the world, both in gas and oil. So it's a big sector of our economy. And also this has influenced and will influence decisions about power plants in the United States. So, and let me go through some examples. The first thing is that combustion from natural gas for power plants produces less CO2 by a lot. Produces less sulfur dioxide because the natural gas is clean. The only difference is that it produces more nitrogen oxides. And so there are many pluses. And we already went through and this. So now the introduction of the natural gas has really changed technologies in the United States. And before we had natural gas or power plants and use them during the peak demand, like in the summer, for instance, when there is a heat wave and we need the extra power. These seasonal, if you will, gas-fired power plants were helping to meet the demand. So they were not the basic, producers of electricity. Now with new technology and cheaper gas, things have changed. And there is what we call for the natural gas, the combined cycle, natural gas combined cycle plants. And basically what you do, you burn the gas, and you generate energy from that, because the turbine, when it burns the gas, turns around, the way they're planes. And then the exhaust heat from that gas firing goes to water and produces steam. And then you have the turbine and produce electricity. So in the natural gas combined cycle, you have you produce electricity in two ways. The first is by the combustion of the natural gas, and the second is by the exhaust heat from the natural gas to a boiler that produces steam, and it's like the same like conventional power plants. And as I said, they are more efficient. You remember when we talk about coal power plants, we talk about an efficiency of 33%, so 2/3 of the energy is wasted. Whereas for the natural gas combined cycle, the efficiency can be even 50%. So the companies, they have a tremendous advantage to use natural gas. In addition, the natural gas has less emission controls. It's cleaner, so the controls are minimal. Whereas, as I will show you later, the coal-fired plants, they are they produce a lot of pollution, and they need scrubbers to remove sulfur dioxide. They need electrostatic precipitators to remove particles. So they are more expensive. So as they get older and there are more regulations about emissions, the industry really has an incentive to switch to natural gas. A couple of other advantages are natural gas power plants are cheaper than coal. They are more acceptable to be near cities, not in the city, but outside the city. Therefore, you don't have to transport electricity from Ohio Valley to Boston, because during the transport, you have many losses. So you don't really have losses. They can be sized. You can make it small and big as you want, whereas with a coal power plant, it has to be large so you can make sense financially. So we're moving to natural gas power plants, and about before this fracking boom, 60% of the coal in the energy was produced by coal, and now that is going down to 40%. So natural gas really has taken over. Right now, it's just a little bit above the coal, like 45 to 40, and the rest is nuclear, which is about 19 to 20%, and some renewables. So there is a competition, and as the landscape changes, United States produce good coal. The coal does not have a good market here, so it is exported. Now, if you remember the beginning of the class, I said that the Paris Agreement, which required countries, especially the developed countries, to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, it was not signed by the Trump administration. And this was a political issue rather than actual issue, like a real issue. Why? Because even doing nothing, United States is going to meet the Paris Agreement. So even doing nothing, just by the sheer fact that we have a revolution of natural gas here and we switch from coal to natural gas, that really we can be fine. We meet our responsibilities. So the issue was not economic. It was not about jobs, as usually they say. It was not about money. It was just because it has become a political issue. And you can see here the carbon dioxide emissions have gone down in the United States. And one of the reasons is because the natural gas. I was going to say, yes. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that natural gas is a solution to our country and in the future to other countries. I see this as a transition, like to buy time, so we develop more the renewable energy forms like solar and wind. And so this is buying us time. Of course, we produce less carbon dioxide and less mercury and less particles, but still, eventually we meet carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, not as much as the coal, but we do a bit. So the way to see this is a transition, and we have this kind of grace period, and I hope we can take advantage to be able to switch to develop the technologies, and as I said, update our distribution grid so we can get wind and solar. Another issue is that at the exit of the fracking, there are emissions, and an important emission is the methane. Methane also is a greenhouse gas. It's a very potent, actually, greenhouse gas. So fracking a natural gas contributes to methane. And there were regulations to reduce methane. And when the Trump administration came, they relaxed these regulations, and now the industry can produce methane without any controls. And that's not a good idea because that really contributes to the climate change. Another thing is that there are problems, other potential problems with fracking, which is like the radioactivity that comes out. The liquids, they are not considered radioactive waste, and we think they are. And this is cheaper. This makes things cheaper. If they start considering them as a radioactive waste, then it's very expensive to waste. I gave you an article that says all these things about fracking, so you can read it and come to a conclusion. So this is just what I said. Now, the other thing is that just briefly, natural gas, if it's abundant, then people try to find other applications. So not only just for power plants, but we can use it now for buses, even planes in the future. So it is making its way to the market for different markets. And as the technologies evolve, you will see more of that. Near these wells, there is industry. The same way that there is industry next to the petroleum wells in the Middle East, there are industries which are energy hungry, like petrochemical industry and cement industry. They need lots of energy. So by being then next to the production, whether it's oil or gas, really make the numbers better. And so we have now a euphoria. Until recently, we did not export gas, but now there is one of the problems in Europe. For instance, they get most of the gas from Russia, and any time President Putin has to put pressure on Europe, he threatens to shut off the natural gas. So there are efforts now to liquefy natural gas from the United States and ship it to Europe. There are also the new developments, as I mentioned to you on Wednesday, in the Eastern Mediterranean. So again, this thing we are doing here is not just for the United States. It has really global implications in the arena of